por acá. This is Rancho Los Alamitos. And we're gonna enter. So pretty. Welcome. Chicken. So we just signed in, and they have a house here that they're gonna give us a tour in, but that's at 2. So might as well just look around until the tour starts. Okay. My mom wants me to show you this. They have animals here. They have becerros. Tienen animales aquí. Tienen caballos. Mira, la Biblia. ¿Cuántos hay aquí adentro? Hay 2. Para la Biblia. ¿Le damos? O dice que no Biblia hoy.
Sácale una foto. ¿Vas a poner fotos?
Sí. Ahorita que se deje de rascar. Ok, vamos acá. ¿Qué más hay aquí? Sé que hay caballos. Ay, yo no alcanzo a ver.
Borregas, mira.
No hay nada. ¿Borregos? Mira las borregas. Ay, no voy a grabar eso. Mira los dientes. Borrega, bebé. Tichi.
No está lastimada ella.
Vámonos. Haciendo del baño. Aquí ya no hay nada más. Miren este carrito.
Mira.
Mira. Like a little shed. Y aquí dice... Están los caballos aquí. Mira. Ok, vámonos. Vamos a ver allá los caballos. Dice que no vayas a tocar los animales. Solamente podemos verlos, no tocarlos. ¡Hola, caballo! Ella tiene su copete. Así tenía mami su copete. Y están comiendo hay. Y hay otro. Mira, está bien grande este. Voltea a verme.
Ay, mira, estuvieron los dos así. Por arriba, nomás por acá, ven.
Estoy bien chaparra. No me cansa ver. No me quiere poner atención.
Levanta la cabeza.
No quiere. Mamá, ¿qué hora es?
Mira, 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 ahora sí. De ahí sácalo. Hacemos para acá, que le voy a dar la cabeza así.
Todavía no se le va a ver, tiene copete.
Más para acá.
Estoy bien chaparra.
Ahí de todo sale.
Vente. Vámonos. Vamos a ver las gallinas. ¿A qué hora es? Ok, todavía no. Son las 2. Estamos a tiempo. Mira las gallinas. Mira también gordis.
Ya se trae botas.
Oh, tiene botas, madre.
Desde las botas acá.
Mom dice que tiene botas porque mira, se le ve tiene plumitas de abajo. Y dice que es botas, mira. Botas, pero no son botas. Vámonos. Vente.
¿Y esa casa le ves el tractor ahí?
Sí.
Sí, como se ve todo bien.
A ver. Voy a ver y no me caigo. Vente, vamos por aquí, métete. ¿Qué hay aquí? Oh. Me imagino que aquí había vacas antes. ¿Verdad?
Sí. Sácale de acá de la puerta y dale la vuelta recorrido.
second.
Hello, ladies. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Been here before?
No, this is our first time.
Oh, well, welcome. Welcome to the rancho. This is our duck pond. We have 2 white ones, and they're Peking ducks. Not on the menu. This is the rancho. And then the 3 brown ones are called Rouen, which means they're a French duck. Any thoughts on what they're looking for when they're in the water like that?
Food?
Bugs. They're looking for bugs.
Oh, bugs.
Yep. They're real sweet. And you see our chickens. We have 13 chickens. They all lay eggs. There's still eggs in there right now. And, our ponies, we have 2 rescue ponies. And then 1 regular horse. So she's getting bigger, so she could be a trail ride horse. And then our biggest horse is our Belgian Shire. He's 7 feet tall when he stands up big tall. And he weighs about 2,100 pounds.
Oh.
He just turned 10.
Oh, wow. So this area was the blacksmith. If you look at there, oh, I'll show you again. It's closed, but there you go. Blacksmith shop, built in 1933. See all the tools. Okay, let's go. They have 9 gardens. Ma, ¿qué horas son? ¿Son las 2?
No sé.
Porque a las 2 nos tenemos.
No puedo ver.
Tienen 9 jardines y ahorita vamos a ir a verlos.
Mira qué bonitas.
Ma quiso ver los jardines. Está bien bonito acá, ¿verdad, ma?
Sí.
¿Tu primera vez?
Primera vez que vengo aquí, está bonito.
Ahí hay más árboles. Ahorita vamos para allá. No se puede ver, hay mucho sol. Pero qué bonito está. La casa, mira. Sí. Mira el árbol, está bien grande. Se oye agua, ¿hay una fountain abajo? Se oye el agua, pero no se ve nada, ¿verdad? Va a estar más abajo. Pero qué bonitos árboles. Ahí hay un guide. Pero prefiero irme yo solita.
¿Por aquel lado? ¿Vamos allá?
Sí. Una cuidadora.
Ajá. Todo de mi edad.
Hello.
Mira cuánto carne.
Mm. Could we enter?
Yes, that's the friendly garden through there.
Oh.
And then you can go around to the Jacaranda Walk, which takes you to the cactus garden and the native garden.
Okay. Thank you. Y más está queriendo quemar su inglés aquí. ¿Qué?
De uvas. Y esa de uvas es una parra.
Un jardín. Es uno de 9 jardines que hay aquí. ¿Pueden mirar? Aquí antes había una fountain. Sí, voleibol. Este rancho era grande antes.
Sí.
Muy grande. Y ahorita es grande, pero antes era más. Está bien bonito, ¿verdad?
Mira, ya. Mira qué curioso árbol.
Otro jardín que va para allá abajo. Aquí tienen una virgencita. Una virgen.
¿Dónde?
Allí en la esquina.
Recorrerlo más que temprano.
Aquí está el voleibol. O no, tenis. Es tenis, mamá.
¿Oh, tenis?
Sí.
Ay, sí.
Es tenis.
Sí veo la malla, pero no sé muy bien.
Y vamos a entrar a otro jardín. Que es este de cactus.
Tiene bolitas, esas semillas.
Puro cactus va a haber aquí. Y se oye pájaros. Ya tiene tunas. This is a cactus garden. Sí, tiene tunas.
¿A dónde le vamos?
Por donde tú quieras. Por eso quería venir después aquí. Ya que diéramos el tour por la casa. Porque son jardines diferentes. Son 9. Está bien bonito aquí.
Mira qué curioso. ¿Cuántas espinas tiene?
Mi mamá está dando el tour. Ahí hay más, pero ya casi va a ser las 2 y tenemos que regresarnos. Ya dale por acá. Aquí está el árbol. Ahí está la señora. Entramos por allí y salimos por acá. Claro que hay más, ¿cómo se llaman? Pathways que puedes caminar, pero mira, ¿qué tipo de fruta se llama?
Naranja. Orange.
Mira ese árbol. Qué bonito.
¿No podemos agarrar uno?
No. No, deja allí. Vente. Mira, allí se oye agua. Ya que demos el tour de la casa, venimos para acá a ver la agua. Un river que tienen. Ok, ya no hay salida acá. Oh, mira el bambú. Esto es bambú.
Estos son bambú. Todos estos.
Más flores. Todo esto es un bambú.
Hay un caminito.
¿Cuál caminito?
No, ¿qué altísimo?
Está hasta allá. ¿Hay caminito? No, ¿verdad?
Sí, por aquí o para allá, ¿no?
¿Sí se puede? Vamos a ver dónde nos lleva Elena. Se hace que nos vamos a perder aquí. Una little bench. ¿Ya nos perdiste?
Sí. Están trabajando ahí.
Oh, sí. Luego venimos. ¡Córrele! Porque ya casi son las 2. Tenemos que dar el tour de la casa. De la casa grande. De los ¿cómo se llama? Patrones. Mira, aquí también se puede ir. Sí. Porque es a las 2. Luego venimos por acá a encontrar el río. El río Little River que hay acá. Miren qué bonito. Mamá, ponte allá, te voy a tomar una foto. Párate allá. Ya que terminemos con la house tour, venimos aquí y me tomas una foto.
Puede que ahorita te lo pongo bien.
No, ya vamos tarde, vente. Y así venimos para acá a ver más. Nos tenemos que ir rápido porque ya es tarde. Nos tenemos que ir porque ya van a ser las 2, faltan 2 minutos. vamos tarde. Es a las 2. Vente, ya van a ser las 2. Ok, ya. Aquí es la oficina. Ok, lo voy a dejar. Ok.
Okay.
Bueno. Uy.
If I could get you to stand out in the ocean.
Ok.
That sounds weird, but we do things oddly here.
So what is this room?
Okay. Generally, we call this the map room or the rancher room. I don't know where they got the idea that we call this the map room. I have no idea. But I like to start here because I can give you a little bit of the history that will put this into context. But if I start going off the deep end, I love history. So we'd be here till next Friday. So don't let me do that to
You
you.
didn't mean that Friday, you meant the Friday beyond that.
Anyway, well, again, welcome to the Rancho. My name's Doug. I put my name tag. If you have any questions or there's something you'd like to learn more about, just let me know.
Okay.
Just let me know. And we're going to look at a number of things. We're going to look at the land. We're going to look at the people who lived here and how they shaped the land and how the land shaped them. Hopefully it won't be a long historical tone. But anyway, long before any of these lines mattered, we had first people called the Tonga. And one of the things that I try to make a point of is that the Tonga are not in past tense. They are still here. Are you from Cal State Long Beach at all?
Yes, I am.
I used to be a media director, so I love that school. Well, you've got a professor down there named Craig Torres, who's Tonga. And he comes up here when we have little fourth grade school kids. He teaches those classes.
Oh, cool.
So the Tonga, and also over by your dorms, there's Povlonga. I'm going to explain that in a bit. But that's another part of the Tonga sacred site. So, but anyway, this is where they lived. These brown labels you see on the floor are the names of Tonga villages that we confirmed existed. They lived as far away as the Channel Islands and Catalina, and arbitrated as far away as the Colorado. So they were pretty busy. Right here, where you're standing, they call it Povlonga. At the time, before any of this mattered, this was the highest point in Southern California, 75 feet above sea level. So it kind of makes sense for a sacred site to you can see everything around. It also had the advantage of having a natural spring, which in this climate is pretty important. You don't have it piped in. And Povlonga, loosely translated, means a place of gathering, and that's what they did. They came here for religious ceremonies, to trade, to just enjoy life together. And then in the 1790s, Spain was getting a little nervous, and this is why. They had laid claim to all of this, but they were concerned that the British or the Russians would be landing in the central California area and taking over California and coming down this way. Now, that wasn't true, but they didn't know that. So that's why they started the expeditions going up the coast, flying the flag and building the missions. It was a way of saying, no, this is ours. We own this. And one of the people who went with them was a guy named Juan Manuel Nieto. He was a soldier. You've probably seen pictures of the brown hats and the pikes on horseback. And when he retired, he petitioned the Spanish crown for kind of a little land for retirement present. And Spain thought this was a wasteland, so they said, take it all. They gave this all to him. But Mr. Nieto knew something that they didn't. He spotted cottonwood trees. And when you find a cottonwood tree, you found water. It's always a marker for water somewhere underneath it. And the Spanish word for cottonwood is alamo. So Rancho Los Alamitos is Rancho Los Apocalypse. And he set up shop down here. One of the things that the Spanish Crown insisted on, if you wanted to take that land grant, is you had to build a house. They said a house of stone, but we didn't have a whole lot of that, so they built it out of adobe. And it was built roughly in 1804. He and his son built it. And one of the fascinating things about this particular property is the house is still here. As succeeding generations of people came in and bought the property and sold and bought the rest, and did what they wanted to the house, they built it around the adobe, so it's still inside the house you can see today. And when we get in there, I'm going to show you the oak beams from 1804. It's kind of cool. But flash forward to this. Then the Mexican period came along, and life, as you probably know, changed considerably for everybody. One of the things that drove the creation of these lines was when the elder Nieto died, his son took over the property, but he had 3 sisters and a mom, and they had a right too. So they petitioned the governor, a guy named Fierro, to establish the first ranchos, and this is where they are. The son got Rancho Los Alamitos. And then, in the middle of the century, before let's just say around the 49ers, the gold rush, you had a lot of Americans coming from both the East and the West. One of these guys was an entrepreneur. This guy's name was Abel Stearns. And I'll show you his picture if we get into the picture, but he looks like an upstanding man. He turns that way in the picture because there's this huge scar from a bar fight. It's kind of a rough neighborhood back then. Yeah, and we called him Old Horseface, which probably started the bar fight. But when he came ashore, this was all under Mexican control, so he became a Mexican citizen. So Don Abel Stearns. And he ended up buying Los Alamitos. I'm going to stop there because I want you to see his face before I tell you the rest of the story about him. But several years later, a guy named Jotham, actually about the same time, Jotham Bixby, lived in Maine, part of a huge Bixby family, came out west to Rancho Los Alamitos, there it is, as our sister rancho, and established an incredibly successful sheep raising enterprise, among other things. But it did so well, as a matter of fact, and Abel Stearns was living down here at the time. It did so well that another Bixby, very, very, very important person in our history, named John. He was a school teacher in Maine, didn't know an avocado from Appaloosa. He just wanted in on this. So he came out here and joined up with his uncle, and they put him in charge of the books. And it turns out he had a genius for working with money. This is incredible. And in the fullness of time, he ended up buying Rancho Los Alamitos outright. And so he and his wife, Susan, moved in, and I'll tell you a little more about them when we get the picture of them. But then their son took over when his mother passed away in 1906. And Fred and his wife, Florence, moved in and maintained the rancho until Florence died in 1961. Then it went to the family, the kids, who said, not so much. And so they gave it to the city of Long Beach, and it's managed by the city of Long Beach and our foundation now. So, I talk about water. There's one other substance that just really defines this area, and that's called oil. But more about that in the next room. Any questions?
No.
I'll make up the answers, I really will. I once had a group here that just, I said, any questions? And they just stood there like this. And so I stopped, just started saying, you want to know where Elvis is buried? It was tempting. Come on. this is the Nieto house right here. 2 rooms for people, an entrance, and 1 big room for livestock. And Nieto didn't so much live here, but his workers did live here. And the Spanish Crown was very happy with that. And then when Abel Stearns came ashore, he added this. This is inside of here. And you'll notice there's no Spanish Mission tile. It's just a gabled wooden roof. And then when John and Susan came in, they extended it, put the tank house down there, and then when his son Fred moved in, he finished it like that. And I should have pointed that out to you. Do you remember that little red dot on the floor out there? Mm-hmm. That's all that's left. Oh. 7.5 acres. And there we are. But we call it home. Believe me, we call it home. Anyway. Go on, meet the family. The pictures. Behind the suit is Fred Bixby, and this is a Shire horse. Have you wandered around the grounds at all lately?
Yes.
Did you meet Preston?
I think I did. It's the biggest horse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, he's a teenager.
Oh.
But he's got a thing for kids wearing baseball hats. He loves to just, when they're not looking, grabs them, chews them up, and spits them out.
Oh.
So, and who's going to argue with a Shire horse? But Fred, his Shires, those were his pride and joy. If you came up here so much as to say hi, he would drag you over and have you meet all the Shires. And this is one of his saddles. And this is where the family lives. I shouldn't say live. Now, again, I'm not going to subject you to this whole darn room. I'm not going to do that. We'll see. Basically over here. Later on, if you want to come back and browse through, there's so much California history and all these captions. But here's John Bixby. And this was it. Shortly before he came out west. Remember, school teacher, he was in Maine. He had no idea what he was getting into, except he knew that a lot of his relatives were getting super wealthy out at Cerritos. So in he came, got to work at Cerritos, and this is his wife Susan with her sisters. And she was also from Maine. Knew nothing about ranching. She'd probably never even seen a cow. And have a look at her face. Now this is just me. I'm probably projecting, but doesn't that look like, dear God, what have I gotten myself into? Doesn't it kind of look like that?
Kind of.
When's the next train back east, please? But they turned into a very powerful couple. John was a farmer, a brilliant farmer, and he believed that if you've got bare dirt, that's wasted land. So he planted, in his case, barley right up against the house, the old adobe. Well, by then Stearns had put walls around it. Susan finally put her foot down, and this is what she got, this little tiny white picket fence. It came out about 10 feet from the house, but it was a huge victory because the gardens you saw out there, it all came from that.
Oh, okay.
It all came from that. Another neat thing about her, I haven't seen the court documents, but someday I'm going to look them up. They started up a sugar beet company, kind of down the hill where this little school is, the Saddle School. And they brought in a company to manage the sugar beets, and they threw the trash into the water, which ruined the water. And so Susan filed the first environmental lawsuit in California history. So she'd come a long way from going, dear God, what have I done?
Yeah.
The case was never really settled, but they sure got rid of the sugar beet company. Anyway, here's John in later years. He'd become one of the wealthiest men in California. He's part of the group that laid out the original grid of what became Long Beach. The man knew what he was doing. And he died of appendicitis at 39, which is really sad. Because he died before he could really understand what he'd actually created with Rancho Los Alamitos. And if he lived maybe another 20 years, he was ideal this. But there he is. And this is Susan. This is the Victorian era, and that's how she dressed for the rest of her life, every day. She lived here. And when she died in 1906, their son Fred took over with his wife Florence. And Fred was the character. They're very different from John and Susan. These were both educated at UC Berkeley.
Oh.
And the story goes, I kind of believe it because I want to, but there's some debate about it. Supposedly he proposed to her 4 times, and she said no, the first 3. And then supposedly he remembered flowers on the 4th time, and she said yes. Yeah. And Florence had a way of pretty much getting whatever she set her sights on, so they were a really neat couple. And this is Fred, and that's Fred. This is literally how he dressed to ride and row at his Sunday finest. He wore long pants, boots, coat, tie, hat, cufflinks, everything. And I've been up here when it's 102 in the shade. I don't know how he lived, but he was right next to me. He did. And here's Florence. And I love this line. One of the daughters, named Sister, they called her Sister because when she was born, they couldn't decide on a name. So they called her Sister for a while. And it was really Florence Elizabeth, but they kept calling her Sister. But I love this line. Father was the patron, but they all came to Mother. What they left out there is because she made the decisions. They didn't put that up there. I personally think she's one of the most fascinating characters in history, in the history of California. Her vision was just amazing. And all the more so because when this picture was taken, this is 1911, the cattle business was tanking. Now, in Nieto's day, they were selling cattle about $7 each just for hides. The 49ers came along and they wanted their beef. And so Abel Stearns and... Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Hello.